Hello and welcome back to the American Experience. We have a great show for you. Very great one. Quite frankly, I'm going to say probably the most exciting show I've done in a while. It is our Christmas special. As I have said in prior episodes, today is our Christmas special, so it's going to be longer than other episodes. Just be aware of that. And the reason why it's going to be longer is because a lot of people are on Christmas break and a lot of people have the downtime to listen to longer episodes. And also because I just want to have a longer episode. Longer form episodes are perfectly cool and all that, and I think they're just awesome. So, how this episode is going to work, there's going to be three parts to it. Part one is going to be my 10 to 15 minute monologue on the topic I've chosen for tonight. Part two is where the guests I've brought on the show, they talk about the monologue or just about the topic in general. Then top three is we're going to finish off with what we do for Christmas traditions and all that. Because, might as well end it off with a happy note. With all of that, our topic for tonight is going to be what is American culture and why is it important that we define it? And of course, before we get into that, let me remind you to click that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. With all that being said, let's get into the show. So today's topic that I chose was what is American culture and why is it important that we define it? Originally, I planned for this topic to be done for my Thanksgiving special broadcast. But unfortunately, while I did record it, I just didn't have enough time in that hectic week to get it out there. And because during Christmas break, I'll have more time, I am planning on releasing this episode with the topic, what is American culture and why is it important to define it? With that being said, we might as well get into the big question, what is American culture and why do we need to define it? I'm going to start this off with a quote from Vivek Ramaswamy, the gubernatorial candidate for Ohio. And it comes from his book, Truth, the Future of America First. Now, understand the quote I'm about to read to you, I actually disagree with. And I like Vivek on a lot of positions, but I feel like on immigration, on American culture, and on other social issues, I actually disagree with him quite a bit. So with all that being said, I'm going to read from you a quote from his book, and then we're going to get into why we need to define American culture, and above all, what is American culture? So again, this is from Vivek Ramaswamy's book, Truth, the Future of America First. It's going to be page 142, I believe, to 143. We're going to start. Quote, "The view is worth taking seriously because a lot more people share this view than are willing to admit it. Once you believe that American identity is scalar, then there's no reason to limit it to the number of generations your ancestors have been here. Other factors can matter too, like the culture of the country your ancestors come from. The daughter of immigrants from England or Canada who speaks with an American accent and likes pizza and apple pie while watching baseball might be, all else being equal, more American than the son of immigrants from Japan or Pakistan whose parents don't speak English and who himself speaks with an accent who likes to eat mofongo and curry while watching cricket. Here's the problem with that view. Who gets to decide which attribute is more American? Even the hypothetical example is confounded by my myriad of factual problems. Pizza came from Italy, apple pie wasn't created in America, baseball is more popular than cricket is in Japan, and cricket is more popular than baseball in England. That wasn't just a cute example to prove the point. I'll challenge you to come up with a clean-cut hypothetical that works. Turns out it's hard to do, because the premise of scholar citizenship is fundamentally flawed. That's especially true in America because our national identity has never been based on ethnic heritage or skin color or accent or even the number of generations that your ancestors have been here. When you try to reinvent a narrative of American identity based on those attributes, it doesn't go here." And then basically Vivek goes on to yap about how instead of being an American is literally just holding a piece of paper from the U.S. government that confirms that you're a citizen of America. So the quote I just read to you seems like a good argument on the surface. On the surface, it seems like a fairly decent argument, and it seems very strong, but I'm going to destroy it in this episode because I think it is a wrong argument. Of course, we should realize some bias from Vivek over here. Vivek is an East Indian Hindu who is the son of East Indian immigrants to the US. So, of course, Vivek, of all people, is going to support an idea of American identity that is not rooted in ethnic or cultural heritage and instead rooted in an idea of government citizenship, of I'm a citizen and that's all I need to be American. Of course, that is incorrect, because to be an American is not just to hold a piece of paper confirming that you're an American. Instead, it is much deeper than that. To be an American also includes exhibiting the attributes of American culture, possibly being descended from original American founding stock, and also practicing the beliefs that early of American culture. So, of course, we're going to start this off, and a lot of people who probably heard this episode, probably heard that statement, are probably going to be like, oh, that is racist, what you just said, Tanner. That is horrible, and it's infactual. It's not true. I'm going to tell you why it is true. And for that, we need to define American culture. So what is American culture? Well, a lot of people have a lot of ideas of what American culture is. A lot of people have saying, well, it's Taylor Swift, and it's Katy Perry, and it's Hollywood. But that's not what American culture is. That might be some traits of American popular culture, but that's not what actual American culture is. American culture is, by definition, rooted in a blood and soil narrative, contrary to what Vivek Ramaswamy. So American culture is built on three big cornerstones, in my opinion. That WASP, European Christianity, and the frontier. Let's start off with WASP. WASP is an acronym that stands for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and it is a ginormous cornerstone of American culture. Not only do we speak the English of WASPs, English, and not only were we ruled by the biggest WASP nation, Great Britain, but we were also founded by WASPs. The Pilgrims who landed in Plymouth, who created the first Thanksgiving, they were White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. The settlers at Jamestown were White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Settlers all across the 13 colonies were White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Based off of that, it is not difficult at all to see that a cornerstone of American culture is WASP culture. We speak the language, we eat a lot of the same foods, we were ruled by Great Britain. As I said before, we are very much dominated by WASP culture. The second is European Christianity. Now, by that, I don't mean European Christianity is only Christianity from Europe. What I mean is European settlers who also had a Christian faith. Obviously, America was not only founded by WASP, but there were other ethnic European groups that came in too. The French Huguenots from France, the Spanish in Florida, the Irish, the Germans, the Lutheran Swedes, the Dutch, all of them, the Italians, all of them had a big influence on American culture. However, we should note there were some similar traits between them than immigrants now. Immigrants nowadays come from India, come from Africa, come from all over the place. And quite frankly, they are not the same immigrants as they were before. The immigrants that came to America in large numbers when America was founded were from European countries. Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern Europe, those were the people that came to America in large numbers. Yes, Chinese people did come. Yes, a significant Latino population did exist in the U.S., but we cannot deny that the majority of settlers who came to America, the country, were from white Christian Europe, and they brought their culture with them. We get Christmas trees from the Swedes, the Finns, and the Germans. We get log cabins from the Swede and Finnish settlers. We get bagels from Jewish European settlers who came to America. Obviously, it is not hard to deny that white European settlers are a building block of American culture. Without them, America would not be the country we are today. And just imagine how different America would be if instead it was Hindus from India that came and settled America. America would be a vastly different place. It would probably be a mere shadow of what it is today. And even if it was as powerful, the cultural customs, the cultural pop culture, all of that would be entirely different. We'd most likely be writing in Sanskrit and speaking in Hindi, and the America and the world itself, because of how much power America has exerted on the world, would be a completely different place, most likely dominated by East Indian culture and language. And obviously that's why the white European Christian settlers who came to America are so important to American identity, because they are the ones who brought their identity over with them and helped define what America is culturally. We cannot deny that. We also can't deny that the founding stock of America were almost exclusively white Christian Europeans. They were not East Indians. They were not Chinese people from Taiwan. They were not Japanese even. They were white European Christians who brought their culture, their customs, and their languages with them to America. Obviously, they had some similarities amongst each other. For example, the majority of settlers were Protestant. The majority of them were also ended up adapting to speaking English, and there were ethnic and cultural similarities between them. And while they were different, they did eventually meld together in harmony, creating America as we know it. We should also note with WASP culture that it also had a huge influence on America intellectually. The founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution, were very much based off of the ideas of WASP intellectuals, including John Locke. And there also were other European intellectuals that we also took our inspiration from. Montesquieu brought around the separation of powers that we have in our Constitution. And of course, the very well-known intellectual and cultural critic of Voltaire brought along freedom of expression and freedom of religion. The last area that we need to discuss is the frontier. This is really where American culture was melded together and changed from just a group of European ethnic groups stuck in the same continents to an actual single culture. So let's begin with that. The frontier was how the different ethnicities of Europe came together and managed to create the white American culture that we have today. And of course, it gave birth to a significant amount of American folklore. The Gold Rush, Buffalo Bill, Davy Crockett, the Alamo, Native Americans, all of that came from this culture that was created upon on the frontier. Andrew Jackson and others were created on the frontier. It is important. It is crucial to know that the frontier was very crucial to America's founding and to American culture. In fact, the Oregon Trail, America would not exist without the frontier, as we would still be stuck on our 13 colonies near the Atlantic Ocean, and we would not be the superpower we are today because of our manifest destiny in our expansion into the West. Obviously, we should also mention Native American influence. Native Americans did have a somewhat positive influence on American culture. We wear moccasins, we wear fur hats, we have adopted many of the customs of the natives when it comes to hunting and all that. And quite frankly, I see nothing wrong with that. We came and we adapted to the environment thanks to the natives. America would not exist without the natives. So I want to give a shout out there to the Native Americans, because on the American right, it increasingly seems like we kind of underplay them in how much they influenced American culture. But without them, the white European settlers on the frontier would never have banded together to defeat this common enemy. Without them, they would not have adopted the corn. They would not have adopted tomatoes. They would not have adopted potatoes. There would be a lot of American dishes that frankly wouldn't exist anymore without the Native American presence. A lot of our culture when it comes to American history and a lot of our heritage comes from the frontier and from battling the natives. I mean, some of our most legendary figures come from there. You know, we're talking Sitting Bull, we're talking General Custer, we're talking Custer's Last Stand, we're talking Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, Andrew Jackson, all of these guys, Tecumseh. They had a huge influence on American culture. And obviously not everyone I named right there was a Native American. I think I only named actually 2. But we should notice that the 2 that I named had a huge influence on American culture that we quite frankly cannot deny. So with that being said, I have outlined why I do think American culture does exist, and why I do think being an American is more than just being a citizen. Quite frankly, I think Vivek's view is biased because he's an immigrant and wants to argue he's just as American as other people. Now, Vivek made a point that I think we should take to note. He said, "Why is the son of immigrants from Canada or Great Britain more American than the son of immigrants from India?" I can define that because American culture never came from India. American culture came from Great Britain or the European Euro-Christian tradition that was also exemplified in Canada. And that's why they're more similar. Guess who speaks English? Canada and the US. Guess who plays soccer? Canada and the US. And that sport came from Great Britain, by the way. Guess who both eats apple pie? Canada and the US. Guess which countries both eat pumpkin pie? Canada, the US. Guess what? Both countries celebrate Thanksgiving. Now, yes, they celebrate Thanksgiving on 2 different dates, but regardless, they both have a very similar holiday. All 3 countries, Great Britain, Canada, and the US, celebrate Christmas, which we're going to celebrate soon. And that is not a holiday, especially exemplified in its modern form. That holiday is mostly exclusively from Euro-Christian tradition. So that's my little rant, my little monologue on why I think Vivek is wrong and why it is important to define American culture. And from this, what should we take from this? And why is it important that we define it? Well, quite frankly, it proves that if we want a continuing of American tradition, of American culture, we need to prioritize people who have a similar culture to ours. People from Western Europe, people from Canada, even people from Latin America, as they're already Catholic and they already have a very Western influence on their culture. And that's why it's important to define it. If we want the continuing of American culture as we know it right now, we need to preserve it by bringing in immigrants who are already very similar to our culture and who can assimilate more similar. So with all that being said, I'm going to open up this thing to a discussion. We have my buddies, Dylan, and I hope you guys all have an awesome time with these two. We're going to have a little discussion. So, Dylan, welcome to the program.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. Well, I don't know, that sounds weird. But yeah, it's awesome to have you guys on. I've wanted you guys on for a while. To the listeners of the show, you guys have heard Jasper, you guys have heard Jaden, but you guys have never heard my buddies Henry and Dylan. And let me just tell you guys, to those who are listening to the show, they're great. They're awesome. Very red-pilled, very based. Let's just start off. Dylan, what did you think of the monologue? Anything you'd like to add? Any critique?
So, in the beginning and through a lot of it, you mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy, and you were disagreeing with a lot of what he said, and I agree with you on a lot. I wanted to bring up one thing that I actually agree with Vivek Ramaswamy on. I don't remember the exact quote, but I remember he said, he was talking about like DEI and diversity and stuff like that, and he said, "Diversity is not our strength, but rather our true strength is what unites us across our diversity." And I think this is a really good quote. Okay. Basically, as you were saying, this all ties into we need national unity, we need a national culture, we need something that's going to unite all of us across our differences and across our different viewpoints and races and, origins. We need a national identity and a national culture that is going to unite us all. And when we have people, specifically now with all this mass migration from so many different countries who, rather than assimilating to American culture and wanting to unite with America, are instead in trying to impose their own views on America, I think that's what is causing some of the huge issues that we have today, where we have so much division and not a large, no national pride, not a lot of national unity, not really a defined national culture for most people. So that was just something I wanted to bring up. I thought that was a really good quote by him. Even though, like you, I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, that would be one thing I agree with him a lot on.
Yeah, to be honest, I think his quote was good, but I think his idea of unity is more based off of kind of his citizenship thing of, well, if you're a citizen of the US, then that's all that matters. And America is just held together by a set of, ideas, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and all that. I kind of disagree with that because that's kind of the take he seems to have. Even though what he said there was awesome, I do think a lot of some of the takes he has on what unifies us is kind of in the wrong area.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you in saying that we need something to unite us, but him and I would disagree on what exactly we do need to unite us.
Yeah, and like I said, he's biased. He's not of European origin. He's not Christian. He's going to be biased to saying, well, it should just be a set of ideas. Because if it is based off of a blood and soil or religious shared culture or similarity, that kind of leaves him out of it. And as we all know, people don't like being the outsider. So that's just kind of my take on Vivek. What else do you guys want to talk about American culture? What else would you guys add? The floor is open. Dylan.
Yeah, I think one thing about American culture that I really like is how everyone, ideally at least, in like an ideal world, obviously this isn't really happening as much now as it used to, and this is why we need to kind of get back to this idea. But it's the fact that everybody is responsible for themselves. You are the one person responsible for your success and for what you do in your life. It's not the government's role to tell you what to do. It's not the government's role to give you a life. Rather, you are building your own life and your family for yourself. And I think that's something that we really need to go back to because nowadays we see so much lack of personal responsibility. People want to be almost told what to do in a way, almost kind of like slaves. They just want to be, oh, the government can give me this, the government can give me that, and as long as I serve them, they'll serve me. So I think we really need to recognize how big of a national ideal and part of our culture in the past has been when it comes to self-sufficiency. You are the person responsible for your own life. You're free to build whatever you want. You're free to live however you want. You are the one who's going to make your own success, and you should be able to do that without any other people, institutions, or government standing in your way.
Yeah, and I was that kind of really tied into the frontier part because back in the frontier, like you were kind of by yourself, unfortunately. Like you can always go to your neighbors for help, but a lot of issues, it's like you're out there in the woods with your family. That's all you have, and so it's like you kind of have to like rely on yourself to get money for your family and make sure you guys aren't like dying or something. I think there was a good quote. Oh, I don't know, from a certain political party. Don't worry, it was in the U.S. But anyways, the quote was it had to do with blood and soil. It was without blood, the soil has no protector, and without the soil, the blood has no home. And it was basically running off of people and the physical land. Both of those build up a country. It's not just the people in the country that build it up. The land's also important too because that's what creates the people. That's what happened in the U.S. Right? Like I said before, the frontier super instrumental in making America what it is today, into making American culture. And yeah, I mean, I thought that was just a really good quote I heard out there. I think it is important that we really the movement. I don't know if everyone who's listening is part of the movement, but I mean, like the America First movement. It's really important that we really like emphasize, like, this is your birthright. Like the U.S. is your birthright. Like that, this is your home and treat it as such, right? Like, don't just go around polluting it, being a little annoying, you know, piece of scum, littering and all that. And obviously, I'm not, taking the very environmentalist Greta Thunberg area where it's like we gotta like worship the ground, and it's like if climate change happens, it's the end of the world. But what I mean is like take care of it, and also like get out to nature. Like this is your birthright. You gotta like take care of it, and you like it's a part of you to some degree. I know that sounds dumb, but like the land is part of you, kind of. It's kind of what makes you into you. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it is true in my opinion that we like I was in Boy Scouts for a few years. There's nothing like camping because it's a lot of fun, and then it's also really miserable when you wake up and it's damp and it's cold and it's like, why did I do this? But it was a lot of fun as a kid. I loved Boy Scouts. Jaden was in Boy Scouts actually. I was in Boy Scouts with him. But yeah, I mean, I went hunting during Thanksgiving break, actually up in Canada because I'm also Canadian. I won't go into that now, but I mean, I felt more connected to the land then, just doing that. And once you're connected to the land, you have a bigger sense of I'm here. I'm this, I'm a protector of this land, and so it's my job to ensure that it will continue for generations to come, and that my people who rule this land will continue for generations to come. That's kind of just a very basic human aspect of humans, and I think it's very, very important. I think it's just important personally, just to understand that, like, America, there's no other home. Like, this is your birthright. Like, you should die fighting for America because this is your home. With that being said, any other comments?
Uh, Briefly, you talked about. I remember you talked about like, oh, when you're going camping and stuff, it can feel kind of miserable sometimes because it's cold and you don't have all these,
Yeah.
modern luxuries. But I think that brings up an interesting point. How we've become so kind of detached from nature. We have constant comfort almost. We are constantly in air conditioning or, heaters, and we have all this pre-made food that we don't have to work for. And I think it's kind of dangerous, and we've seen that in this world now, how we're almost, this kind of almost leads to the sentiment of people wanting to just be given everything and told what to do and don't want to make things for themselves. When we want food, right, we microwave crappy pre-made stuff with plastic all inside of it. When we are cold, we don't have to go start a fire. We press a button on our heater. When we're hot, we just press a button on our air conditioning. When we, want to go somewhere, we just hop in a car. We're right there. And some of this stuff, like cars, etc., can be good, but I think it's really almost, we need to kind of get back almost to having to work for our own stuff and actually almost give ourselves what we need instead of just expecting to be given everything for free all the time. So I don't know. That's something I wanted to add just briefly.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Dylan. That kind of also just plays into, like, the internet and stuff. Like, the internet has really screwed people up. I know that's ironic considering I'm gonna post this on the internet, but, like, internet has really screwed people up. We all know that. And it's really because people just become so detached, and our attention spans have been, like, decimated because companies have just been trying to like squeeze as much information as possible in, like, 3 minute videos, and it's just really destroyed attention spans, and that's kind of a bad thing. I don't want to. Your local educational facility, the grade under us, supposedly can't. A lot of them don't actually know how to read, which I don't know if that's true or not. But if it's true, that's pretty bad. And they're kind of a generation destroyed by their grade that is destroyed by by short form content, which is just destroying the internet. It's really sad. But yeah, my honest recommendation is, if you are, like, your short term attention span is destroyed, watch longer YouTube videos or listen to them. Read a book, do some other activity, stuff like that. But that's kind of all I wanted to talk about coming to that. We're running on the show. We have about 14 minutes less, so I figured might as well just end on a happy note and talk about Christmas traditions. Dylan, what do you do for Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you're like a kid, I think we need to focus on teaching our kids that Christmas isn't just about getting gifts, it's about actually, appreciating your family and all the gifts in this world, not physical, but like, spiritual, the land that we have, the families we have, our relationship with God, all of that stuff. So, I don't know, I just usually on Christmas I try to spend it with my family as much as I can, talk to my family, spend time with them, hang out with them. I usually go to mass the day before Christmas as well. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do normally. Pretty simple.
Yeah, that's a big part of Christmas, is like the Christian aspect, because that's kind of what Christmas is for, really. Otherwise, the gift giving, all that's just a secular. That's just us adding on extra stuff. But the real holiday is just celebrating Jesus Christ's birth. So as you just go through the Christmas season, remember that, guys who are listening, or even the guests on the show, just kind of remember, that's really what the holiday is about, which is Jesus Christ's birth, the ultimate gift to the world. I'm not going to go deep into there because obviously there's Advent, there's church. You can go there if you want to hear the full Christmas story. Anyways, yeah, what my family does for Christmas, we just kind of just kind of do a lot of the normal stuff. We go to church on Christmas Eve. Then we come home and we don't have a fancy dinner. We kind of just have a bunch of finger foods, meatball, those little tiny like Swedish meatballs that you put the toothpick in, and we have wings and cheese and crackers and salami and stuff like that, or sausage and salmon and all that. We eat that, and then we open gifts, send the videos to all of our relatives about this is thank you for the gift, and then take a Christmas photo. We Oh, what else do we do? We then have some dessert, stuff like that. I think we sing carols occasionally. My parents are trying to get us into singing carols again for Christmas. It's annoying considering the fact that they do it like right before we eat food, and so we're hungry and after church, and we just want to eat and open our presents. But my parents force us to do that. But normally we also visit family. So I'll be in Canada during Christmas break and celebrating Christmas up there. That's kind of it. Stuff like that. We have a Christmas tree up right now. Same old, kind of like what everybody else does. Obviously, there's more of a Christian aspect to ours. Just because we're Christians. Um, yeah, let's leave this off with what do you guys want for Christmas? Dylan, what about you?
Honestly, there's not anything specific that I really want. I just kind of, if there was any like category of stuff, I'd say I'm trying to like, you know, make some music and stuff, and maybe like make some, educational videos and stuff like that. So I just say like audio recording software, stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. Like what kind of audio recording software?
Like, I don't know, just like an editor, like an audio editor, something like that, or just like
You know,
a
the
different
guy I'm
microphone.
the one I'm using Riverside, it's all free. I mean, you can get the premium version, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think
yeah.
just like, or really just like, I don't know, learn how to edit audio and stuff, because,
Oh, this one
I don't
does it
know.
easy for you. It gives a full transcript and all that.
Hmm,
I can send you a link.
interesting.
Yeah, for any of you guys out there who are listening, I'm using Riverside FM for my recording. Great platform, all free. You can get a premium version, but I don't really need to. You don't need to. I mean, I'd recommend using the platform. Obviously, as I just did to Dylan, Dylan's a great buddy of mine. I recommend it to him. I recommend it to anyone listening if you want to start making videos or something like that. What do I want for Christmas? I want some more radio equipment for my ham radio hobby. Not like I already have a whole bunch, but more is always good or better. I want some books by Pat Buchanan and Paul Gottfried. And I think I probably got those because normally my grandparents buy whatever's on my book list, and I only had two books on there. They were really cheap, $13 per book, crazy, crazy sale. And we're talking like the Pat Buchanan one I wanted was Suicide of a Superpower, 550-page book, and it's like $13 off. And the Paul Gottfried one is a collective of essays edited by Gottfried by prominent conservative intellectuals from like the 2000s and 2010s. The paleoconservative ones, the ones who were kind of America first before Nick Fuentes or Donald Trump existed and came onto the scene. Um, we only have like 6 minutes left till 8, which is when I said I'd stop this recording. Hey, let's do this. What were your guys' lasting impressions on the Nick Fuentes Pierce Morgan interview? Because I know it's a thing everyone's talking about right now.
That was definitely interesting. Um,
It was kind of all the memes from that.
that was interesting. Let's see. I have to think about what I'm gonna say here. I'd say, I think he's really good at getting people upset.
He is. That
He's really
was
good at getting people angry at him and getting them to kind of lash out at him, and then he like, I don't know, he can use that for like popularity and stuff. I don't know. That's something I noticed that he does a lot. People get very angry at him and he just kind of sits there and laughs at him. I
I
found that funny.
mean, it was kind of funny because it's like Piers Morgan is like criticizing Nick on him having some Tim saying something about the Holocaust that wasn't like That was very, very like it didn't happen kind of thing. And then Pierce is like, Nick, do you find this funny? Nick's like, yeah. And Pierce is like, why? And he's like, Nick's like, too soon? Is it too soon? And it was like, I don't know. I just found that hilarious. I'm like, he's the ultimate troll. Nick is, people say Trump is. I think Nick is personally. He's just like the ultimate troll. He's funny. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's a funny guy. He's like the ultimate troll. Oh man, there's so much you could like. Yeah, there's so many funny quotes from there. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so that was a great episode we had. I hope everyone who was listening really enjoys this Christmas special. And don't forget, everyone who's watching, we're going to have a New Year's special most likely, and we're going to have Jaden back again. I'm going to know Jaden was with us for Charlie Kirk and for some other episode, and you guys love Jaden, so I'll bring Jaden back. And obviously, tell in the comment section below how we all did. I think not Nick. Nick is not on here. I think Dylan did an awesome job. With that being said, great episode today, guys. I want you guys definitely back on the show to cover other in-depth topics. And this is the American Experience, broadcasting live out of the greatest country on God's green earth. Make sure to click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below. Tell us what you thought of the show. Merry Christmas, America first. Until next time. Have a good one, folks.